a question I saw on Twitter today, and our buddy Mike Bassick answered it so well. Somebody said, "Hey, put this in baseball terms. What would this be like in baseball?" And Mike Bassick said, "Bobby Witt Jr. for Mike Trout," right? And
yeah.
the difference would be, I don't know that we've had any real injury history on Bobby Witt Jr., but we certainly have had injury history every year almost on Mike Trout. And again, like Anthony Davis, Mike Trout is a superstar. So is Anthony Davis. But then again, both are in the waning years and days of their careers. And Bobby Witt Jr. and Luka Doncic are very early in their careers. So I thought that was a great point. And then I was actually talking to my buddy Nate Newton yesterday, and he asked me, what does this trade relate to? And I said, I believe that it's the biggest trade ever, first of all. It's going to go down as the worst trade ever in the NBA. I believe that. Secondly, it's going to go down as the biggest trade ever in Dallas-Fort Worth history until something huge comes along. The Herschel Walker trade was big, right? It was big. But the trade for Luka Doncic is even bigger. And again, in the Herschel Walker trade and the other one I'm about to mention, the Dallas fan was on the good side of the fleecing, if you will, right? The Dallas fan was on, the happy side of the Herschel Walker trade when they ultimately got many, many players that became serviceable right away, but also they got the draft pick that became Emmitt Smith, who, by the way, is the rushing champion in NFL history. So, that one was huge. The one on the Rangers side that we've referenced recently, Jeff, is the Jared Saltalamacchia, the Mark Teixeira trade, which brought Saltalamacchia and Elvis and Neftali Feliz and Matt Harrison. I mean, that was huge, unbelievable. We'd done an emergency podcast for that one too.
Oh, 100%. And Tom Grieve made a lot of trades.
Yes, he did.
They traded for Jose Canseco. Ruben Sierra for Jose Canseco. That Jose Canseco at the time was as big a star as you could get in baseball, really. Hitting the home runs and all of that, and then he turned out to be a dope. But that was a huge deal. Traded Sammy Sosa, a young Sammy Sosa, and at the time nobody really knew what would become of him, but of course he became a 600 home run hitter, whether it was natural or not. Same thing for Canseco, but there have been some big trades in Rangers history, and some have been bad. John Daniels says the worst trade he ever made was the one involving Adrian Gonzalez and Chris Young, as it turns out, but not because of what became of Adrian Gonzalez and Chris Young, but because the Rangers weren't ready to win, and JD thought they were. And so it was a miscalculation of where the franchise was. But, when the Cowboys traded away Herschel Walker and when the Rangers traded Mark Teixeira, they were building for the future. This was a turning point for the franchise. They recognized where they were and how they were the only way to get better. But then, the Mavs, you just traded the best, one of the 3-5 best players in the game at age 25 for a guy who, like you said, is a good player, 10-time All-Star, but it's just cataclysmic. And so now here's Ben trading Ian Kinsler, is trading Luka to me. I tell you, that trade was made November 20th, 2013. And for Prince Fielder, and at the time, it was like, okay, Jurickson Profar can be the second baseman. Prince Fielder is going to be the best first baseman, even better maybe from an offensive perspective than Mark Teixeira was. And to answer, finally fill in the blank at first base that had been there since Teixeira had been traded. And obviously, it did not turn out well for the Rangers at all. They did get a nice 2015 season from Fielder. He was the comeback player of the year, but that was it. He was hurt pretty much all of 2014. He was hurt again in 2016. Kinsler went on, led Detroit to some pretty, was a great player for Detroit. Won some Gold Gloves, won a World Series with the Red Sox. It definitely did not go the Rangers' way on that one. And of course, the other piece of that is Profar, who was hurt. Right. And nobody recognized it. And so he didn't play for 2 years. And then up came Rougned Odor. So it's, these player acquisition, there's risk with everything.
No doubt about it.
And you can usually make it make sense, but this one is still hard to make sense.
And you talk about the one, like that you were talking about with JD and the Adrian Gonzalez, you also referenced the Sammy Sosa, and on coming back from Chicago was Harold Baines.
Right.
And at the time, Tom will say the same thing too, by the way, that's like the one he'd love to just forget about. But at the time, Baines looked like he was the guy that could help put a Rangers team that had built through the, draft and development, but also had some veteran. It felt like he could be the guy to put him over the top. He got here and he didn't want to be here. And it showed, man. I overlapped with him when I first got here, and Harold Baines wanted no part of this place. We'll hope that Anthony Davis does not come in with that sort of an attitude. The Mavericks had a pretty big one back in the day, too, when they traded Mark Aguirre for Adrian Dantley. That was a big one. So, and again, we had some misgivings on the part of Adrian when he got here and left the Detroit Pistons. So anyway, lots of interesting sidebars to this whole trade thing, and it's just had us thinking about it the whole weekend.
We all silly like the mayor.